Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tuassir wa tammim bil khair. Ad-darsu al-hadiya wa thalathun, lesson number 31. And it's a very, very important lesson. And inshallah, as we know that we are learning about mansubat. In mansubat, we have learned about al-mafailu al-khamsa. In the previous lesson, we have learned about tamyiz, and inshallah, today we will learn about al-hal. As we know the meaning of al-hal, that means condition or situation. So that's the real meaning, and let's see the meaning of al-hal in the context of the grammar. It is a noun used to express the state of the sahib al-hal while an act is taking place. So it's basically when the act is taking place, and it tells us about how the action took place. So for example, we say, Ja'a Bilalun Rakiban. Bilal came riding. So here we can see that here Bilal is the Sahib al-Hal, and the one whose state is being described. So that is called Sahib al-Hal. And Rakiban is the Hal, and Ja'a is the act. So the one that is being described is called Sahibul Hal, the one whose state is being described, and after that the noun that follows it is called Hal. And we know that, as we can see, that it is a common noun, or it is an indefinite noun, and it is always mansub. So two things that we need to know. Number one, it is an indefinite noun, it is nakira, and number two, it is always mansub. And this is something very, very important. If you need to know in a sentence, like if you're not sure whether it is a hal or not, then the hal is the answer to the question kaifa. So we put the question kaifa, and if we get the answer, that means we are talking about hal. For example, in the answer to the question, for example, if you say kaifa ja'a Bilalun, how did Bilal come? And one says Ja'a Rakiban, he came riding. So now we can see that this is an answer to the question Kaifa. So whenever we are able to answer the question Kaifa, then that means that is Hal. For example, if I ask you, Kaifa tadrusu al-lughat al-arabiyyata, how do you learn Arabic language? And you say, Nadrusu al-lughat al-arabiyya wa nahnu jalisuna fi buyutina, while we are sitting in our houses. So how do you learn it? كيف تتعلمون العربية؟ يعني ونحن جالسون في بيوتنا, in a state that we are sitting in our houses. Or you can say عن بعد, يعني that means online. So whenever you get the answer to the question كيف, that means inshallah that will be حال. For example, we have more examples over here. جاءتني الطفلة باكية ورجعت ضاحكة. The child came to me weeping and returned laughing. So at-tiflatu, we can see that it is sahibul hal. And if you see how did the child come to you, so you say the child came to me crying or weeping. And how did he go back, or how did she go back? She went back dahikatan, laughing. So this is what we call hal. Similarly, you say uhibbul lahma mashwiyan, I like the meat grilled, was samaka maqliyan, and the fish fried, wal bayda masluqan, and the egg boiled. So uhibbu, I like, and al-lahma is sahibul hal, and we will see that sahibul hal can be the fa'il, and it can also be the maf'ul. So lahm is something that is being eaten, and how it is eaten? Mashwiyan, when it is grilled. When we talk about the fish, how do you eat it? I eat it fried. Wal bayda, and the egg, how do you eat it? Masluqan, when it is boiled. The hal is mansub, as we can see over here. The sahibul hal is one of the following. So the one whose condition is being described, that can be one of the following. Number one, it can be the doer, al-fa'il. Kallamani ar-rajulu basiman. So kallamani, he spoke to me. Who? Ar-rajulu, the man. In what state? What was the state when he spoke to you? The man spoke to me smiling. So he spoke to me smiling. So we can see that ar-rajulu is the doer of the action, as we know that kallama yukallimu takliman, as we know that this is the verb, And al-ya al-mutakallim is the receiver of the action, that is mansoob, and that is maf'ul bihi, and ar-rajulu is the fa'il. And we know that whenever we have the attached pronoun comes before the subject, it comes before the fa'il. So that's why we can see that here ar-rajulu is the fa'il, but it comes after the object or maf'ul bihi. Then it can be na'ibul fa'il. Na'ibul fa'il, we know that it always comes in the passive sentences. For example, yusma'ul adhanu wadihan. Yusma'ul adhanu wadihan. The adhan is clearly heard. So if someone asks you, how is the adhan heard in your house? So you say, yusma'ul adhanu wadihan. The adhan is clearly heard. Now, al-adhanu, we can see over here, it is na'ibul fa'il. Why do we say it is na'ibul fa'il? Because when we have a passive sentence, in passive sentence, we don't have the doer. If we have anyone in the place of the doer, we call that this is na'ibul fa'il, yani the deputy of the doer. Then it can be also maf'ul bihi. Ishtaraytu ad-dajajata madhbuhatan. I bought the chicken slaughtered. So now we can see that ad-dajajata is maf'ul bihi. Ishtaraytu is fail plus fa'il, and ad-dajajata is maf'ul bihi. And how did you buy the chicken? What was the state of the chicken? The chicken was slaughtered, madhbuhatan, so it was slaughtered. It can be mubtada as well, subject. For example, at-tiflu fil ghurfati na'iman. So now here we will say that at-tiflu is the subject, and we know that this is sahibul hal. Fil ghurfati is jar majroor, and na'iman is the hal of the children, and the child is in the room sleeping. So that's the state of the child. And it can be khabar, as we can see over here. ذَلِكَ الْهِلَالُ مُخْتَفِيًا خَلْفَ السَّحَابِ. That is the crescent hiding behind the clouds. So we can see that ذَلِكَ is the subject, al-hilalu is the predicate, and mukhtafiyan is the hal of the hilal, or of the moon or the crescent, and khalf al-sahabi, as we can see that this is dharf plus mudaf ilayh. That is the crescent hiding behind the cloud. So there are 5 possibilities of sahibul hal. Number 1, it can be the subject.
Sir, after zalika, if al comes, it is not badal, Ustad? Not like that?
It is badal as well. Excellent. Yeah, it's a very good question. But as advanced students of Arabic language, we should know that after dhalika, when we have al-hilalu, so we know that dhalika is ism al-ishara and al-hilalu is badal. Also, there is a possibility that dhalika will be ism al-ishara and al-kitabu will be its predicate. Dhalika yajuz, it is also possible. And if we look at the example from the Quran, in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, we have dhalika al-kitabu la rayba fihi. So when you look at I'rab al-Quran, you will see that dhalika will be over there, it will be subject, and al-kitabu will be predicate. So there is a possibility that after ism al-ishara, the musharan alayh can be badal, and it can also be mubtada. So I hope that's clear, inshallah. So we have 5 possibilities that sahibul hal can be the subject, al-fa'il, it can be naibul fa'il, and it can be maf'ul bihi, and it can be subject, and it can be predicate. The sahibul hal is mostly definite, as we have seen in the previous examples. It is definite. However, it can be indefinite. It can be indefinite, as we call this nakira, but it should be, so there should be some conditions that sahibul hal can be nakira, but there has to be some conditions over there. So what's the first condition? The first condition is it should be qualified by an adjective. So it should be mawsuf, and then there should be a sifa after that. For example, you say ja'ani talibun. So we know that talib is indefinite noun, but after that, what do we have? We have the adjective that is describing the student. So ja'ani talibun mujtahidun musta'adhinan. A hardworking student came to me asking or seeking permission. So if we have indefinite noun, then the first condition is it should be mawsuf, and there should be a sifa after that. There should be adjective after that. That's number 1. Number 2, or it should be mudaf, but it should be mudaf to an indefinite noun. As we say, mudaf ilal nakira. First, we have learned mudaf ila al-ma'rifa. Mudaf ila al-ma'rifa means that if the noun, if mudaf is indefinite noun, if it is nakira, but mudaf ila is ma'rifa, then both of them will become ma'rifa. For example, we know baytun is an indefinite noun. But when we say baytullah, then also bayt becomes definite noun because of ismul jalala. But here what we need to know that mudaf and mudaf ilayh, both of them should be indefinite. For example, sa'alani ibnu mudarrisin. So now we can see that ibnu is an indefinite noun, it's nakira, and mudarris is also nakira. Ghadiban, what's the state? Angrily. So a teacher's son asked me angrily. So sa'ala nibnu mudarrisin ghadiban. Our teachers, and if you look at the translation, our teacher's son asked me angrily. So the second condition is it should be mudaf, but it should be mudaf ilal nakira. Mudaf to an indefinite noun and not to a definite noun. If one of these requirements is not met, then the hal should be or should precede the indefinite sahibul hal. Then what should happen? Then hal should come before sahibul hal. So what will happen? Then hal will become muqaddam and sahibul hal will become muakhar. For example, ja'ani sa'ilan talibun. A student came to me asking. So this is one of the conditions. I think it's not being used in the Quran and it's very uncommon. But we know it's a part of the Arabic language and we need to learn it. But it's very uncommon and it's not used a lot in Arabic language. So what is happening over here? We know sahibul hal is nakira. But what happened? Hal has to come before it. This is also one of the conditions. And also, this is the most common, and this is the one that has been used a lot in the Quran. It should be a nominal sentence connected to the main sentence with waw al-hal. That is the most important thing, and that is, inshallah, what we will focus on in the Quran as well. Ja'ani waladun wa huwa yabki. A boy came to me crying. So we know that this is waw al-hal, and after waw al-hal, generally we have a nominal sentence. However, there is a possibility that we can have a verbal sentence as well. So ja'ani waladun, a boy came to me. What was his state? Wa huwa yabki, and he was crying. So we will say that wa is waw al-hal and huwa is the subject and yabki is the predicate. And in the Quran we can see aw kalladhi marra ala qaryah wa hiya khawiyatun ala urushiha. So now we can see that here we have waw al-hal, and after that we have the subject, and then after that the second one is the predicate. Or like him who passed by a town while it was in utter ruins. And in the Quran, when we look at the translation of waw of hal, it will be most of the times translated as while or when, as we can see over here. أو كالذي مر على قرية وهي خاوية على عروشها. So we will say this is waw al-hal, and then after that, what kind of sentence we have? We have nominal sentence. Jumlatul ismiya, excellent. Yeah, but there is a possibility that there can be a verbal sentence. But if we have a verbal sentence, then we will see that there are some certain conditions. We will see, inshallah, after we complete this.
This is regarding Uzair alayhi salam, Ustad?
Yeah, this is Surah Al-Baqarah, exactly, yes. Okay. Kinds of hal. The hal is either a word, al-mufrad, or a sentence, al-jumla. So it can be either a word or it can be a complete sentence. Al-hal al-mufradu, we have already seen example of this. Here is another. دخل المدرس الفصل حاملا كتبا كثيرة. The teacher entered the class carrying a lot of books. So the teacher entered the classroom, and what was his state? He was carrying books. حاملا كتبا كثيرة, a lot of books. Al-hal al-jumlatu, the sentence may be either nominal or verbal. Verbal sentence: جلست أستمع إلى تلاوة القرآن الكريم من الإذاعة. So جلست is a verbal sentence. As we know that it starts with the verb in the past tense. So جلست, and after that fail plus file, and this is the hal, which tells that in what state I was listening to the recitation of the Quran. I sat listening the Quran recitation from the radio. So here the verb is mudare, as we can see over here, جلست أستمع إلى تلاوة القرآن الكريم من الإذاعة. So I sat listening to the recitation of the Quran. So this is very, very important. جلست أستمع. So here the mudari or the present tense is being used as حال. التحقت بالجامعة وقد تخرج أخي. I joined the university after my brother had graduated. And my brother had already graduated. So if you have the past tense as hal, then please remember that it should come with qad or laqad. So whenever we have the past tense as hal, and whenever it comes after waw al hal, then it cannot come by itself. It has to come either with qad or laqad. As we can see over here, iltahaqtu bil jamiati. After that, what do we have? We have waw al hal. And after waw al hal, when we have the past tense, then it should take qad. وَقَدْ تَخَرَّجَ أَخِي. I joined the university after my brother had graduated. But if we have a verbal sentence, then it's fine. حفظت القرآن وأنا صغير. I memorized the Quran while I was small. So after waw, we have a nominal sentence, and we know that a nominal sentence or jumla ismiya consists of the subject and a predicate. So ana is the subject and صغير is the predicate. جاء الجريح دمه يتدفق. The wounded man came with blood gushing out. جاء الجريح, and we can see here that this is a verbal sentence, and here صاحب الحال is الجريح. And what was the state when he came? دمه يتدفق. His blood was gushing out. Now we can see that يتدفق is mudari. It's a present tense. With present tense, we will not see qad or we will not see laqad. But in the past tense, whenever we have waw al hal, after waw al hal, we must have qad or we must have laqad. Is this clear? Any questions, anything that you would like to ask?
It's clear.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So we move on. This part is very easy. We don't need to worry about it. We have learned about it already. So just we need to know that whenever al-hal al-jumla, whenever we have al-hal al-jumla, it should contain a rabit, a connector, connecting it to the main sentence. This word is either a pronoun or wow, it can be both. Either it can be pronoun or it can be both. When you look at the example, inshallah, it will be easier. Attached pronoun, exactly. جاءت الأخوات يضحكن. The sisters came laughing. So we know that here the na in yadhakna is the pronoun connecting the hal to the sahibul hal. We also know that whenever we have a noun, after noun, whenever we have a verb, the verb should match the noun. Yeah, they should match, right? So if we have akhawatu, it will be yadhakna. Nunu niswa, exactly. And if we have ikhwanu, then it will be yadhakuna. So we know that whenever we have a noun, then after noun, the verb should match the noun. It cannot be different from the noun. So this is number one. Number two, dakhaltu makkata wa shamsu taghrubu. I entered Makkah while the sun was setting. And again, we can see over here that taghrubu, basically in taghrubu, we have hiya, which refers to the shams. Wa shamsu taghrubu, yeah. So here we cannot say wa shamsu yaghrubu. Why can we not say that? Because we know ash-shams in Arabic is feminine. So that's why the verb that should come after that has to be feminine. So in this case, inshallah, it's easier for us to understand that what is meant by the rabit. Rabit means that the noun the verb should follow the noun. Or if we have a noun, then it should follow the noun as well. For example, we can see over here, Raja'at tullabu wa hum mut'abuna. So the students, we know it's masculine and it's plural. So that's why we have to use for that. Mut'abuna, the students returned tired. So here we are talking about the hal of the students. However, we can see that this is a nominal sentence and we have waw al-hal. And after waw al-hal, we have the subject and the predicate. So hum will be subject and mut'abuna will be predicate. However, we know in this sentence that mut'abuna is describing the hal of the students. Yeah, so that's why we can see mut'abuna. So now we can see over here agreement of the hal with the sahib al-hal. So the hal agrees with the sahibul hal in number and gender. In number and gender. Status, we know that hal is always mansoob. So the status, I think we don't need to worry about this. For example, we say, Ja'a talibu dahikan. The student came laughing. So there is one student, at-talibu. So that's why we have dahikan. But if we have two students, we will say, Ja'a talibani dahikaini. So when we talk about two students and when we talk about their state, we will say two students or both of the students came laughing. And if we have more than two, then it will be the plural. So we say, Ja'a tullabu dahikina. As we know, una, ina, so that will be mansoob. The students came laughing. So now we have more than two students. So here we have one student, here we have two students, and here we have more than two students. It can be three up to the number that could be 50, 100, or whatever it is. So now we can see that hal and sahibul hal are equal in number and gender. Ja'at al-talibatu dahikatan. The female student came laughing. So al-talibatu is feminine. That's why the hal has to be also feminine, dahikatan. Similarly, if we have two students, Ja'at al-talibatani dahikataini. Ani, aini, tani, taini. So when I have two students, it will be taini, dahikataini, and Ja'at al-talibatu dahikatin. The female students came laughing. It's more than three, right? So if we have one student, it will be dahikatan, two dahikataini, and more than two, it will be dahikatin. So now we can see that hal and sahibul hal should agree in number and gender. As far as your question is concerned about the status, so the status, as we have seen, that hal is always mansoob. It is always mansoob unless it comes after it comes as subject and predicate, because we know subject and nominal sentence, and when it comes after waw al-hal, then we don't have a choice, right?
But the sahibul hal will be always marfu, is that?
Sahibul hal will always be, it depends. For example,
previous slide.
Ra'aytu at-taliba dahikan, because we have seen that sahibul hal can be five things. Sahibul hal can be five things. It can be al-fa'il, it can be naib al-fa'il, and it can be mansoob as well. We have seen in the first slide, if we go back.
Yeah. It is the 5 states, right?
Yeah. Okay. So it can be also, as we can see over here, this one, ishtaraytu ad-dajajata madbuhatan. So it can be also maf'ul bihi. So sahibul hal can be, it can be fa'il, it can be naib al-fa'il, it can be maf'ul bihi, it can be subject, and it can be predicate.
Okay.
So there are 5 possibilities over there.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Alhamdulillah. So we move on. So we are done with the hal. Now we will see the next points that we have. One of the patterns of masdar is fa'ilun, in fact, fa'ilun. For example, la'iba is the verb and masdar is la'ibun. We know the verbs that have 3 root letters. The pattern of the masdar always changes. We have seen it can be fa'ulun. We have seen it can be, as we can see, fa'ilun, yeah. So it has lots of patterns. And one of the, here are 2 more patterns of the broken plural. So this is the pattern of masdar, and here we have the patterns of the broken plural. Fi'alun, we have learned about fi'alun in book number 1, like jibalun, like biharun, like kilabun. And we are learning here again that, for example, the plural of na'imun will be, or the na'imatun, the plural will be ni'amun, and similarly qa'imun, and the plural of qa'imun and qa'imatun will be qiyamun. So it's basically on the pattern of fi'alun. As I said, we have learned in book number 1, we have learned like biharun, like jibalun, and kilabun, and similarly we have fi'alun. So I think it's enough, the introduction for today, inshallah. And in the next class, we will do the lesson. What do you think? Inshallah. Yeah. So please try to memorize this information. And inshallah, when we meet again, we will inshallah complete the lesson, and it will be interesting, inshallah. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
جزاك الله خير.
جزاك الله خير.
Hayyakum wa barakallahu feekum.